Hey folks, I'm Gail Wolf and the creator of the Frequency Cutting Board. And this video is about the tensor rings that are inside the Frequency Cutting Board, which is the circle that you see in the back. So what makes these cutting boards unique is that they clear negative or dark energies out of the food that's being prepared on the board. And not only does it do that, but they infuse the food with positive energies or good energies or healing energies, whatever that is for you. And as you may or may not have seen in the other video, I use the golden ratio to build these boards, and then which has a great energy all of its own. And then we have the tensor rings in the back. So between the two, we have a cutting board that does quite a bit for your food. So what I want to do is explain what these little babies do. This is a tensor ring. So a tensor ring is really the driving force behind what makes these boards so potent for your food. And what this is this is a copper ring that is one piece of copper bent in half, twisted, and then put into a ring that creates an energetic frequency. But it does more than that. It creates a tensor field. Tensor field essentially is a quantum field that holds a certain frequency or a certain vibration that can be measured in megahertz. And a megahertz is a frequency or a vibration that when it radiates out, it affects everything that it radiates out to. The unique quality of a tensor field is that it radiates from a central source in two different directions. So this ring is emanating an energy out this way, and it's also emanating an energy out this way, and it's coming out in a spiral in both directions. Where's the energy coming from? That's the beauty of the tensor ring. The tensor ring is essentially the middle of it all. It creates a quantum field in the middle. So here's how this works. So for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to use this piece of solder. And now granted, tensor rings are created out of copper, but solder is super bendable, super flexible, and it's going to work great for the purposes of this video. So imagine that this is a piece of copper. One of the interesting physical properties of copper is its electrons flow in one direction and one direction only. So imagine that this is a piece of copper, all the electrons would be flowing this way. They won't flow backwards, they only flow in one direction. So an individual by the name of Spurling discovered, I think it was back in the 70s at some time, that if you took a piece of copper and you made a circle out of it, that those electrons would flow in a circle. But what that did is it flowed in a circle only in one direction. While that created a beneficial energy on one side, it created a negative energy on the other side. In other words, there was a draw that came. It would remove from this side and take it to this side. It created a current through it. So what he discovered is that if you take a piece of copper like this and you fold it in half like this, and you made a U out of it, you still have the electrons flowing down this way on this side and then up this way on this side. And then if you twist it and you put a nice twist in it, like this, that you are essentially bringing those two together. So here's where it gets cool, is when you take that bent piece and you bring it around and you put it together like this and you attach the two ends, you create a field that emanates in both directions. And the length or the size of the circle is what determines the frequency or the megahertz that is being emanated out of it. So what Slim discovered is that if you cut a piece of copper here and you have a very specific length and you cut it again, and then you bring that very specific length back together, and you have this piece and this piece wrapping back into itself on this side. In other words, they have to line back up. It's almost like the snake eating its tail in the sign for alchemy, is when you line those back up and you bring them back together at a very specific length, you create a tensor field, a healing interdimensional field that has the capability of removing negative energies and infusing positive energies. So that is the science behind this. That is the science behind a tensor ring. And these tensor rings are what you see inside the frequency cutting board. Now, as you'll notice, this ring is far different sized than this ring right here. This ring has a frequency of 188 megahertz. 188 is a great frequency for self-empowerment. It's great for self-empowerment, and it's great for authentic expression for oneself. This tensor ring, by its size, is 144 megahertz. 144 megahertz is great for community. It's great for manifesting. And I also offer another size, which is 528 megahertz. And the 528 is great for love. It's great for healing the DNA, and it's great for healing in general. So those are the three frequencies and the three tensor rings that can be infused into a frequency cutting board. Hopefully this video has been helpful for you in understanding how these tensor rings work, how these cutting boards work, and how they can be beneficial for you, your life, and your food. Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a great day and thrive on.